Okay, I don't know if this is live. I wish there was a way of me knowing. There we go. Hello, everybody. I wish Facebook would get better at telling you, giving you a countdown and letting you know when you actually are now live. I hope you're all doing well today. I'm enjoying the sunshine this afternoon. Hi, this is Vanya Fatidis from Peaceful Eating, where I help people around the world come to a place of peace and ease in their bodies and with food. And each week I answer questions anonymously. And this week I've got two questions which I'm looking forward to answering for you. And they're about when we are used to eating because of our emotional cues, and really how do we start listening again for our actual physical cues for eating. And the second question is about how to deal with people at work who are very focused on dieting and losing weight, and you're no longer subscribing to that way of living your life. So, how do you deal with that? So, I'm going to try one more time to stick my notes up on my screen here. It's very precarious. I really must remember to get some better sticky tape. I think this is an old roll that I don't know, I inherited from somewhere and it's lost its stickiness. All right, so let me get to the questions. So here's the first one. When you've spent so long responding primarily to emotional hunger sensations and disconnecting from the physical sensations of food, for example, still eating despite being full, how do you start listening again? So, the way that I am reading this question, I think what you're saying is that your cue to start eating is often an emotional one, and that you're so disconnected from the process of eating, from the physical sensations of eating and maybe hunger and fullness, that you don't know when to stop eating. Or perhaps what you might be saying is that even when you do notice that you're full, that you continue to eat. And so how do you start listening again? And I think that is really your question. How do you start listening again is actually exactly this what you need to be doing. But I think what you're meaning by listening is you mean listening to and then obeying the physical cues for starting and stopping to eat. And what I would suggest you do is start with the listening and leave the following through on whatever the listening might be telling you, perhaps for a bit later. Let it come on its own rather than you try to force it. And I'll explain what I mean in a second. So, what we're aiming to do is to start to pay attention and to become curious about what is going on for you. So, there's an emotional something that's happening, and you have the desire to eat. So, if you can have an intention to simply be aware of the desire, the urge to eat, you could take a moment to just check in with yourself. It's like, what am I noticing here? What am I feeling? And if you can name the sensations to yourself, that's great. You don't actually need to know what the emotions are. You don't need to be able to name the emotion. What's much more helpful is just knowing what is happening inside here. Am I feeling tightness? Am I feeling pain? Where am I feeling it? So to maybe you put a hand on the part of your body where you're feeling something. And most likely, not always, but most likely, if you're eating in response to emotional cues, there probably will be some kind of a contraction felt in the body, some kind of a tightness or a sinking or a heaviness. Um, there might be a kind of pulling feeling, but it's unlikely to be a kind of open, expanded feeling. Um, but not exclusively. But the point is really just to listen in for what actually is going on. Now, even if you're not physically hungry, but you know at that point that actually there's something going on emotionally and you want to eat in response, all I'm suggesting you do is become curious about what's going on rather than trying to make yourself not eat unless you're physically hungry. Because if you've been sort of tied up with dieting and trying to lose weight or worrying about your weight and thinking you should lose weight, even if you're not actually dieting, is that when you start to tell yourself you should only eat or you must only eat at a certain time or when you're at a certain point of hunger or only when you're hungry, what's really likely to happen is you set up this deprivation cycle where your inner rebel will come out to cause a bit of havoc and maybe cause a binge. So you're not trying to stop yourself eating emotionally, but what you are trying to do is become more aware of, okay, this is an emotional eating cue here. This is interesting. Okay, so let's just spend a moment. I can eat in a few minutes or few seconds, but I'm just spending a few moments just checking with myself. What's going on right now? And if you want to eat, go ahead and eat. What you could do is just check in with yourself around what else might I be needing right now. So, depending on what you find out with what's going on with you, you you might realize that actually what you really need is to have a break, to lie down, to talk to somebody, to something. I don't know, you might there's a whole load of possibilities about what you might need that isn't food. So, what you're just trying to do is check in with yourself around what it is that you might need. You're still not withdrawing food, and you don't have to follow through on what you might need. What you're trying to do is get your brain to accept that there are other possibilities that you could be considering. But particularly with clients, I often say, um, really let it be then as little resistance as possible. So if you're noticing that following through on any of the other options cause stress inside you and you still want to eat, then really do let yourself have that. Let yourself eat. And try to stay connected with yourself. So as you're eating, it's like choose something that you want, right? Choose something you're going to find delicious and enjoyable to eat because you're going to be eating anyway. It may as well be something you're going to enjoy. I mean, I would suggest most of the time we try to do this if we possibly can. It's not always possible. Some of us don't have the means or the opportunity. Um, but where possible, choose something that you like and you're going to enjoy. And then try to stay connected with yourself so that you're noticing what does this taste like? What's the texture? What is the flavor? Oh, this is changing now as I'm chewing it. This is more, I'm noticing the sourness or the sweetness or the tanginess or, that flavor is sort of coming up now. See if you can really, really be present with what is going on inside your mouth. And then check in with your tummy as well and with your satisfaction. It's like, am I enjoying this? How full am I feeling or how satisfied am I feeling? Fullness and satisfaction are not the same thing, but just ask yourself, how full am I feeling? How satisfied am I feeling? Um, and then you can check in with yourself at some point. It's like, do I feel ready to stop? So all you're doing is bringing a lot of curiosity and attention to the current experience. You're not trying to make yourself do anything. What you're trying to do is be with yourself. I hope that makes sense. Let me just see if I've covered my notes. Um, I think that's about it. So I hope that that answered your question. And please know, anyone who's watching this afterwards, that you can come back with supplementary questions. If you want to um, if I didn't quite make sense to you, or I didn't quite understand your question, or you've got something you want to add, by all means do. All right, here is the next question. Um, right. Learning to love my body regardless of my weight, but I still struggle at times. Fair enough. Especially at work, where all my coworkers are talking about their bodies and what diet they're on. Any tips on how to drown them out when leaving the room isn't always an option? Oh, my thing is going out of focus. There we go. All right. So the first thing that I would recommend to you is to cultivate compassion, particularly for yourself, but we'll get on to the rest of it in a moment. So compassion is a recognition that there is suffering, that there is difficulty. It's also an awareness that it's an inclination towards relieving some kind of suffering. But that doesn't mean we're trying to fix the suffering. It's really just about leaning in towards being with the one who is suffering. And in this case, it's you. So, can you be with yourself in a kind, warm way where you're recognizing that something's hard and difficult for you, and you are giving yourself some kindness for that suffering? Kristen Neff, who is a researcher around self compassion, she talks about three aspects to self compassion. The first is mindfulness, so having an awareness that there is suffering. So that's the first thing. If you don't have the awareness, then it's very difficult to bring in the compassion, right? Because you're not aware, but clearly you are aware that this is what's happening. But perhaps to recognize it as a suffering, as something that's difficult. The second is to remember that you're not alone, that there are other people who have this exact same situation. In fact, I give you any bet that when this goes out into my group, it's not about the weight. There will probably be other people saying, "Yep, me too. That's something that I struggle with as well." And that goes for pretty much everything. So just remember you're not alone. There are other people who feel the same way as you, who struggle in this way too. And so have some compassion for yourself. The third piece is um, kindness, to intentionally bring kindness to yourself. All right. So, what you can also do is if it feels okay to you, you can't force this, is have compassion for them too, because they are tied up in diet culture and they are also suffering. They are also doing this, dieting, trying to lose weight and whatever, to meet some need, probably a need for belonging, need to, feel a certain way or be accepted, etc. So you could um, have some compassion for what they're doing as well. Now, what I didn't understand from your question was whether this is happening like in the breaks at work or if it's during work time and you're kind of in an open plan situation. Um, because obviously there are different things that you could be doing in the different situations. So I'm just going to kind of cover it all, I think. Um, so let's first start off with the compassion piece. So this is something that is so amazing to do, and you can just do it quietly in your own mind. First of all, it comes from the Buddhist meditation or practice actually called metta, which is loving kindness, which is really about compassion. Okay, so to first of all say to yourself, now you can use your own words. I'm just going to give you some words, but you don't have to use these. Whatever feels right to you. But you say to yourself, may I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be well. You can put anything in there, you know. May I give myself some compassion. May I be kind to myself. Then you can, if it feels okay to you, generally, these are people that you feel that you can do this with. Don't force it. You say to yourself, may you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be kind to yourselves. So if you send out and send in these wishes of loving kindness, it really does shift the internal energy. It's really amazing. It's such a powerful thing to do. Anytime you see suffering or you feel suffering inside of you, you could say something like this and just see what it feels like to you. I mean, it's a whole practice, and I'm not giving the instruction around the whole thing, but just those words can make a difference. Right. So what could you do? Well, you can just let it be. So they are there doing what they're doing, chitter-chattering about dieting and weight loss. And you can be present, really. So just notice what's going on for yourself. Tell, talk to yourself, like what's going on for me? How am I doing in here? I'm feeling really stressed. I'm feeling irritated. Where's the irritation? Yeah, it's right here. I can feel it, or it's right here, or it's rising, or whatever it is. I'm feeling annoyed, or I'm feeling vulnerable, or whatever the feeling is, which could be anything from shame to anger and, anything in between. Just acknowledge it to yourself. This is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on for me. Can you let them be them? And can you let you be you? So you could say to yourself, I'm on my journey. They're on their journey. I wish them well on their journey. I wish me well on my journey. Just let them be who they are and do what they're doing. But you kind of come home to yourself and maybe just breathe, notice the breath. Okay, so that's one thing. It's just kind of letting it be, letting it unfold without having to do anything necessarily. But what you are doing is staying with yourself, noticing what's going on for yourself, being kind to yourself. You could, I don't know what the situation is. So if it's a more social situation, um, then you probably couldn't do this. But if it's a work situation, then you can tune it out, just like somebody who's talking about something that bores you. For me, it would be any kind of competitive sport. They're talking about rugby or cricket or football, whatever. It's just like, woohoo, I'm away with the fairies. I'm not really paying attention. So, can you tune it out? Can you refocus on what you're doing? But if it's a more social situation and they're chatting about this and you're the one who isn't, then you could change the subject. You could um, engage in the topic, but not in a way that is colluding with it. You could share something, but obviously you need to kind of know these people well enough or to feel within yourself um, resilient enough to say, I've really been down that track and it really caused havoc for my mental and physical health. And so I'm focusing on really just listening to my body and being good to myself. And I'm letting go of all of that. I'm learning how to accept myself and just appreciate my body for what and how it is, if that feels okay to you. And obviously, if it doesn't feel okay to you, then you don't do that. But um, you could find ways of talking about something along those lines. You can also just help to steer the conversation in another direction, another topic that you find interesting, something current eventish that's happening, or share something else entirely. Just change a subject. So I hope that those are helpful suggestions for you. And let me know if you want, to know more, or you have supplementary questions, or I didn't quite get it right for you. That's totally fine. All right. Well, that is all I have for you today. If you would like to ask a question, please just put a comment anywhere you see one of this video or one of these videos. I'll see the comments, or you can go to my website, peacefuleating.co.uk, Q&A videos, and you can submit an anonymous question if you'd rather not leave it on social media. Submit an anonymous question via my website. So I love answering these questions. They really do get me to think about how to communicate in ways that are really understandable. And it's just such an important issue, you know, for us to feel at home in our own skins, to be okay with who we are, and to live our lives unapologetically, doing the things that matter to us, and to let go of this heavy burden that really we don't need to be carrying. So I hope that was helpful. If you'd like to know more about this approach, if you'd like some help with your eating relationship with food in your body, go to peacefuleating.co.uk and /subscribe will get you my instant access to my ebook, A Guide to Peaceful Eating, or /discovery session will take you to the form to fill out to have a session with me, a taster. Let's talk about your body, your relationship with food, and what you need to be free from this heavy burden that you don't really need to be carrying any longer. All right, take care, have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.